Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The #1 seed for the minor tournament at the start of January is none other than the Carolina Royal Ravens. But Shotzzy the other day on stream mentioned he doesn't think they're especially good, especially when they played FaZe. Shotzzy made the argument that in scrims, Ravens have not been looking especially promising. That seems to be continuing to the present day, getting slammed yesterday by two separate challenger teams. And this Ravens roster is meant to be your #1 team of the league. Are they not as good as they have appeared so far? Or is it simply the case that scrims do not matter? And Ravens are focusing on far more things than simply winning their practice games on paper. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, a couple of things on cheaters. I know this is a big story yesterday as well, how Havoc was playing with someone who he thought was legit. Turns out, wasn't particularly legit. Now, Havoc clarified that this wasn't like his friends, but it was someone that his teammate invited and then vouched for. They played with for a few games until it turned out the guy wasn't real, as in the hacks were doing most of the work for him. And this is frustrating, of course, for Havoc, but look, at the end of the day, it is what it is, unfortunately, in COD at the moment. There are so many cheaters everywhere. What are you going to do about it? Obviously, Method said the following in the replies. Someone I previously admired and looked up to playing with a cheater has left me betrayed and heartbroken. Yeah, it's not necessarily Havoc's fault, but obviously there's been quite a lot of talk about it as a result. There was also this from Ghosty, though, on a similar kind of topic. This I thought was pretty funny. I'm afraid I had the fellow with the better package. Now, pause. But yeah, so he obviously puts the following out here, right? So here we are on what looks like vaults, doesn't it? Yeah, here we are. And Ghosty, sure, 5,000 score, 30 seconds in the hill. Solid map here from Ghosty. Not bad at all. Better than his other teammates. But Ghosty got absolutely put in the dust by Sunkiss2310. 95 eliminations. 11,000 score. Wow, this guy's absolutely cracked. What a player. And the funny thing, of course, is that on the other team, they also had their own hacker. So, you had this guy, Binger, whatever. And this guy had 80 eliminations, 26 deaths. But unfortunately, he wasn't a hacker as well as Ghosty's hacker was hacking. So it's just frustrating, isn't it? Like when you're trying to play a game like this, both teams have a cheater. It used to be like this back in Counter-Strike back in the day, to be fair as well, when, there'd be one cheater on each team. No one would cheat, and then like halfway through the game when one guy was losing, he'd turn on the spin bot, and then your hacker on your team would then turn on his spin bot, and then it was, basically a cheat battle for the rest of the game to determine which cheater was better. And that's basically what's happened here. So congratulations to Ghosty, he had the top dog. And I thought it was pretty funny what he had to say in the replies as well, saying like at the end of the day these guys are just ruining the experience. And he says, yeah, I offered this guy my spot but he declined to respond. So this guy would be pretty nice, of course, if he stepped into the league. But I want to talk about some scrims, because scrims we don't see too often really between pro teams, and certainly between some of the challenger teams getting into the mix as well. But we have seen over the last few weeks a fair few scrims from the Carolina Royal Ravens, the team that are currently #1 in the CDL standings, ahead of Los Angeles Thieves, ahead of Toronto Ultra. They're 4-0. They're going in as the #1 seed to -1. I wouldn't say they're favourites for it precisely, but look, they 3-0'd FaZe the other week, and that's the first time that FaZe have been 3-0 in a qualifier for a couple of years. So Ravens are clearly pretty damn good. Gwinn's been playing out of his mind. Slash has been playing incredibly well. Vivid has been holding his own mostly, not in Search and Destroy, but mostly. TJ's been also very good, I would say. Now, they've been looking very solid. I'd love to see how they would play against, Toronto or OpTic or something like that. We might get to see it at the minor tournament in a few days' time. But their practice has not been strong by the results. Shotzzy made the comment just before Ravens played FaZe in that famous matchup a couple of weekends ago, and he said, like, if FaZe struggle here, it's a bad sign, because in scrims, OpTic seem to slam Ravens whenever they play them. And we saw the other day, OpTic scrimmed Ravens, and it was, I think, 6-2. It was relatively comfortable for OpTic in the end. So, I don't think Shotzzy's necessarily wrong that Ravens might not be the best scrim team, but of course, it's pretty rare that you find a team that struggle in scrims and are very good in the regular matches. So this can mean one of two things. Either that is true, that Ravens scrim results don't matter basically at all, or they're not as good as they've appeared so far, because yesterday they returned, and I mean, even these guys, the SGP roster, exceeding the boys, they'd not even played in a couple of weeks, right? I mean, they obviously all took some time off over Christmas, and perfectly fair enough. They come back after Christmas, and they played Ravens their first game back. Now, Arstie's team as well, so his roster, which is basically the roster that Huke used to be on down there in Challenges, good roster for sure, but obviously a team that Ravens should be better at. Unfortunately, unfortunately, I tried to look up the past broadcasts for this, and I couldn't find the full VOD to see how they did against FaZe. But we know that even FaZe themselves have said that, yeah, in scrims, FaZe are looking pretty damn good. It's the matches where they are struggling, whereas for Ravens, it seems to be the other way around. So, yeah, No Muffin puts these together last night, a couple of scrim results here, and this is what happened between the SGB Syndicate team, so Exceed's roster, and the Ravens guys. And they pretty much got slammed. They won the red card, 250 to 216. Every other map, though, 160 points, 175, 190, 205, even on Protocol, which has seemed to be Ravens' kind of like go-to best map in some regards. They got beat 250, 205 by, effectively a Challengers team. And then in Control, okay, the Protocol they didn't get to the end of for some reason, but they played the other ones and they got 3-0'd on the Hacienda, 3-0'd on the Vault. Now, obviously a rough showing on the first series, but you think maybe an off map or off series or whatever. And then they played Arstie's roster with Proloot and Capsidel and Spart, that team, and they got 7-1s again. This time they won the Skyline, 250-218. They got slammed though on the Protocol. They lost a close red card. They got beaten comfortably on the Hacienda. And then this time the Controls, again, the Protocol Control ended early, but and this time it wasn't such a whitewash. But still, obviously this is a good team. They've been looking very solid in challenges, but Ravens you'd expect to be a bit better. So pretty interesting, right? I mean, Ravens, like how many pro teams would play 2 challengers rosters in scrims and go 2 to 14 map counts against them, especially for a team that's 4-0 in the league? Now, I don't think this takes anything away from Ravens' success so far, and I think, hopefully at least, this is a very interesting story in terms of why scrims don't matter that much, especially for certain teams, because we hear lots of teams that say, oh, well, we're throwing in scrims, and then they go to matches and get slammed, and they're like, oh, what's going on there? I'd much prefer to be in Ravens' position where my scrims aren't looking so good, and then the matches, though, I'm very confident that I'm still going to be playing well, which seemingly the Ravens are as it stands. So it's all very interesting because you usually don't see these type of discrepancies. Teams, if they're good in scrims, they're usually good in games, and it's usually the other way around as well, but of course they're not going to tell you generally if they're getting slammed. Even if you ask Slash or whoever how a scrim's going, he's still going to say they're going fine, and that may be because they are going fine. They're learning what they want to learn. They're improving in the ways they want to improve, because maybe they're focused on more than just winning when they play these scrims, and we'll discuss that more in a second. I think the other argument for me would be, though, that when you win in practice, it gives you confidence, I would say. I mean, if you're Ravens and you're getting slammed in all of your scrims, you turn up to the match, are you confident that you're going to be able to win it at that point? I guess it's a question, because for FaZe, they've basically won every scrim they've played for years. They turn up to a game, all of a sudden they might lose map 1 or lose map 2 or lose a series they wouldn't expect to lose to a team they usually beat in practice online, and then all of a sudden they're in their own head thinking, oh my god, our scrims aren't working again and we can't translate it or whatever. So maybe it can be a problem both ways, but obviously most teams, certainly let's say going into the World Championship, there's often a feeling from the teams that win, they want to go in with some very impressive scrim results going into these tournaments, because then they feel confident they can replicate that when they get to LAN or when they get to these important online games such as the upcoming Minor. So maybe that doesn't apply to Ravens. It's all very interesting, but I would say it's a relatively uncommon feature when a team is having a tough time in practice. Obviously we saw this as well when OpTic played Ravens. This was on the 19th of December pre-Christmas, and OpTic beat them 6-2. I think it was the Protocol they won on both occasions here, but most other maps are pretty comfortable for OpTic, and this seemed to align with what Shotzzy said on Scump's watch party a couple of weeks ago when he mentioned that, yeah, Ravens just, for whatever reason to me, don't look to be especially good in practice, but obviously in games, they have been very impressive, and there's no taking that away from them. So I think it's an interesting tale if Ravens do turn up to Minor 1 and continue to look very good as to exactly the importance of scrims for certain teams, because as I say, it's very plausible that Ravens are going into this practice not caring at all about whether they win or lose the map. It's more about, okay, on this particular situation, we're going to focus on our rotation from P2 to P3, and we're going to just, who cares what happens P1, the rest of the hills, we're confident in our performance on those, we're just going to focus on P2 to P3 rotations and make sure we try and lock that down, and after the game, that's all we're going to talk about, and we're not going to care if we lose 250-120, it's all about improving on this one element, and that may be the way that Ravens practice. That is, to be fair, the way that some teams think about practice, but you tend to find that that applies more down the line. Like, you'd expect that that would be true 3-4 months into the game. At the moment, you could argue teams should still be just trying to learn the game full stop and therefore should be, you know, just trying to win. Because, you know, when the game first launches, the day one of the game, you're not playing to perfect your P1, P2 rotation. You're just trying to win and understand the game. But obviously, Ravens may feel they've got a good understanding of the game. And therefore, when they play these scrims, they may not be, you know, giving it their all in terms of winning, but they're giving it all in other elements, I suppose. But yeah, so Ravens are 4-0. They've been slamming. They beat Cloud9 3-2. They reverse swept them. They beat Gorillas 3-1. They beat the Falcons 3-1. And then, of course, famously, they 3-0'd FaZe. And so far, Vivid slightly in the negative. Of course, his Search and Destroy has been woeful with a 0.61. But apart from that, he's been positive, I guess, excluding that game mode. TJ, Slasher, and Gwinn all had great starts to the season. And we know that the amount of talent that's on this roster, and we've seen it in the league so far. So, you know, why are we not seeing that in their scrims? I guess Ravens will say, who cares? Let's see what happens when the tournament gets underway. And I guess that's the point, isn't it? Because they are playing the Minor 1 tournaments coming relatively soon, and it's to be determined who they play here. I mean, the bracket isn't updating on this page, but effectively, Ravens will play the winner of, I think it's this series, Vancouver Surge versus Cloud9 New York. Yeah, you can actually see it right here. So it's the final day on the Saturday of the event, where Ravens will play another blue team. So they'll either have a rematch against Cloud9, a series that they won 3-2 the other day, or they'll play Surge for the first time this year. And if Ravens were to win that series, they'll then play the winner of whatever happens above. So that being Boston or OpTic or Falcons. So presumably Boston or OpTic, that could be the next series. And then if they win that, they're through to the grand finals, aren't they? Where they'll play a team on the other side of the bracket, potentially Thieves, potentially FaZe if they make a run, potentially Toronto. So, you know, it's going to be fascinating to see. I think Ravens are a pretty likable team and one that people are probably hoping to do quite well, just because they're a nice underdog pick, I would say, for the season. Of course, some may disagree. Whether they can maintain their early season success, I would say, is a question and a matter for debate. And I'm not necessarily sure that they can, but I'm not basing that so much on the scrims. I'm just basing it off, you know, other teams I'd expect to improve. But I like this Ravens team when it was formed. I was concerned about them when their scrims, before the season even began, were not going very well. But it seems like that's just a trend. They sometimes get slammed in scrims, but I don't think Sash is going to be too mad about it, given the performances that we have seen in recent times. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Where?
Mid ticket.
Oh, you're behind him, telling you, yeah. Free kill.
I'm challenging. I don't see him. He ran.
What
They're
the
gonna be-
one shot? Wow, you want Luskies?
I'm camping
He's
a
on the
corner.
loose.
They're gonna be on me somewhere, probably. Maybe mid-ticket.
Yeah,
Maybe mid-ticket, guys.
I am top.
Yo, one guy's yo, Skyz is fucking their hedge or our hedge.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know what
Fuck
they're
all of it.
doing.
It took 17,000 years.
Where the fuck are they? Are they not playing the fucking game?
Bro, they're all over the stairs. Four of them.
Oh, I'm at the wrong hill.
4 of them.
You hit the wrong hit.
Oh, hell no. Tommy's big. Tommy might be big. Tommy's on the good shit.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
this
good.
is funny-
Yo, hold
this
on.
is
That
funny
NJ
crap.
shit is insane. Get time.
Hold on, bro. I think it's this New Jersey shit.